Peacock Radio, your in to all things music.
As many times as I've read the Bible, there are some basic principles that I never got before. One of which, God can't use perfect people. So if you're waiting around to get your life together before you come to God, you're missing the point.
Welcome to Intersect Radio, where music, faith, and life converge. With your host, Aaron the A-Train Smith.
Oh boy, that was pretty darn cool. What a way to start a show. Yeah, I was sitting here grooving and I had to like snap out of it so I could say something. But anyway, welcome everybody.
You like it.
Yeah, man. Welcome everybody to Intersect Radio. It's been a long, hot summer and I've been away from the mic for a while. Out on the road with Mr. Kevin Max and you know, everybody else has been doing their thing, so it's been hard to get them settled down for an interview. But now that summer's coming to an end, hopefully it'll be a lot easier for all of us. And today, my special guest is the one, the only, bassist, band leader, friend, great friend, one of my best, Mr. Darryl C. Anders. Darryl C. Anders, welcome to Intersect Radio.
Thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here, and it's always good to talk to my good friend Aaron Smith.
Cool, man. We don't talk that much, but you know, we got a sonic thing going on, you know.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, it's kind of like the antenna is up and pointed in your direction so that when you send me a message or something, always connected, always on it. Dude, you know, and with that being said, and we don't talk a lot, we've never talked about your life and your beginnings, where you grew up and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of people listening never heard you talk about that either. So let's start from the beginning. When Darryl C. Anders took that first breath of air and let out this big baby cry, I guess you could call it.
Well, I don't remember quite that far back.
Oh, darn.
But I do remember growing up in Florida and even at a young age thinking, I got to get out of here.
You said Smyrna.
No, Florida.
Oh, Florida.
The Sunshine State. Mm-hmm.
Oh, what part of Florida?
St. Petersburg, the Tampa Bay area.
Uh-huh. And why were you so anxious to get out?
I don't know. Even I remember even at a fairly young age thinking, yeah, I need to be away from here. I want to travel. I want to go other places. There has to be something more than this. Not that there was nothing bad. I wasn't running away from anything. I just felt like, I was telling someone, I remember as a kid practicing for my interview on the Mike Douglas show because I just felt like that was something that was going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So,
cool.
I didn't quite get on the Mike Douglas show, but I've done some cool stuff. I've had a good time doing it.
Okay, well let's go back. Let's go back as far as you can go back and start. What do you think?
trying to think what's interesting. I mean, I like I said, I grew up in Florida.
It's all interesting. It's all interesting.
Well, I started playing music when I was in the 3rd grade.
Why?
Because I'm from a musical family. There's always music in my house. My dad played piano and upright. My godfather was a great jazz trumpet player in the area, and I just thought that was a cool thing. I mean, there's just all this great music in my house all the time. So I wanted to be a drummer, but so did every other kid in my school. So trumpet was my plan B because my godfather's a trumpet player, and I thought it'd be cool. Mm-hmm. So I did that from 3rd grade to 8th grade, at which time I discovered a band called the Brothers Johnson on the Quincy Jones album called Mellow Madness. Yeah. And that sound kind of freaked me out.
Okay.
And at that point, I begged my parents for a bass, and I got a bass for Christmas that year. And I would just sit in my room and play along to every song that came on the radio and try to figure it out. That was my world for all through high school.
You said everybody in your school wanted to be a drummer. Mm-hmm. Okay, I had that same experience when I first joined the band. We had like 25 guys come out for drums.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And the only thing that happened is I outlasted at least 21 of them.
As well you should.
Because the rest of them...
And playing the drums ain't the same thing.
Right. Because the rest of them got bored and quit. Or, just got it and figured, I thought I was going to get something and hit on it and it was going to all be fun. What's a rudiment? That's where we're lost now.
I think a lot of people don't realize that music is work.
Yeah.
You have to put work into it to get better at it. And you have to constantly work on your craft. Mm-hmm.
Amen to that. Tell me, when you, how old were you when you started playing bass?
I was, I think 14.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So when did you get 14. Your first gig?
I was 16, and the band in my hometown, they were like the best R&B, soul, funk horn band called the Washington Jam Band. And their bass player, I just thought was the most incredible bass player I'd ever seen live. And something happened. He moved away or went to jail or something. And I ran into the leader of the band in the mall with my friend Bobby Tyson. And I asked about the bass player. He goes, "Oh, yeah, he's gone. We're actually looking for a bass player." And my friend's like, "Oh, Darryl's a bass player." And pushed me up to it. I'm like, I'm not good enough to do that. So long story short, I auditioned and I got the gig, and I did that for, I don't know, maybe a year. It was fun, but I clearly wasn't really ready to do that. But what it did teach me was it taught me how to learn songs, how to like really dig into the parts and how to play in an ensemble and how to groove with a drummer. Because at that point, I'd just been playing in my bedroom or, jamming with friends at school. So it really taught me a lot about being in a band. Mm-hmm.
Cool.
So,
and what did you do after that year? I mean, you said you were with the band for about a year. Then what happened? What transpired?
I think that was the year. It was right around the time I graduated from high school. And then I went to junior college for a year. Just kind of jamming around with friends. Didn't really play in a band for a while. And then I went to the Air Force. And I joined the Air Force in 1980.
Volunteer?
Went to tech school.
Well, of course you volunteered, right? The Air Force.
I wanted to get away from Florida quickly, and I wanted to see the world. So I joined the Air Force, and I got stationed in Japan, and it just kind of changed the trajectory of my life.
And what was your spec?
I worked in aircraft fuels, refueling jets, and I worked on flight simulators for a little while. I did a couple different things. It was fun. You know, I got to see some different parts of the world, meet a lot of great people, some of whom I'm still friends with to this day. And it was great to get out of the country at that young age, because I got a chance to see what the rest of the world was like, and to see also how people perceive people in this country. Because I think it's really easy to have a very monolithic view of what America is if you never step outside of it. So
agreed.
It was a great education, and I encourage everybody, if you have an opportunity to travel, do it. It's good for your soul. It's good for everything.
Yeah,
because we're all connected, and I think, you know, it feels like that connectivity is slipping a little bit, and in my life, I'm trying to do everything I can to solidify it as opposed to tear it apart.
Great, man. Did you play bass while you were in the service?
I did. I didn't play in the Air Force band. I was going to audition for it. I'm not a good reader, and it wasn't important enough for me at that time to really work on it, to be in the Air Force band. And then I got an opportunity. I used to go into town, and there was a jazz club outside of the base, like 20 minutes outside the base. And I would go there and sit in, and got to know the owners. And pretty soon I was playing there anytime I wanted to. I would just go there and play, 4 or 5 nights a week. And it's when I first discovered jazz. I mean, as you know, as far as trying to learn how to play it. And
how did that happen?
I'm not exactly sure. I mean, I grew up listening to a lot of jazz, but I didn't really have a love for it because that was my dad's music, But going and seeing live jazz, I really kind of developed an appreciation for it. And the owner of this jazz club, it was called Cam's Live House. And Cam was a piano player, great piano player. And he gave me the opportunity to work on that, and it was just great. I learned a lot of great songs and met a lot of great people, and like I said, it changed a lot of things for me.
Man, I bet you. How long were you stationed in Japan?
I was stationed in Japan for 2 years.
Oh yeah,
and I went to the Philippines a few times, and it was great. And then while I was in Japan, I met the singer Barbara Long, who was in a USO traveling kind of show band. And Barbara and her now husband Darryl Joe were from Sacramento. So I thought, well, maybe I'll try to get stationed near where they are. And basically that's what happened. I got stationed at Travis, and when I came back to the United States, we put a band together. With
those same folk, huh?
We did that, cool. And then Barbara went on to be the singer in Hiroshima for a few years. And it was great. I mean, again, it was a connection from a random meeting at a club in Japan, and then we're lifelong friends now.
All right, man. Well, let's. I want to go back
to Sacramento, where we met.
Yeah, Yeah. But before we get to Sacramento, I want you to go back and tell us about growing up in St. Petersburg and the Anders family and what you guys did and how you got along.
I think it was a fairly typical thing. You know, my parents both worked in the school system. My dad initially was like a choir director and a band director. And then he went back to school and got his master's degree in secondary education. And then he became a dean and then an assistant principal. My mom was an elementary school teacher. And then she went back and got her master's degree and became a guidance counselor, which she did until she retired. And so I was the product of two teachers, which meant I didn't get away with anything in school. Like if I did something, my parents knew about it before I even was done doing it. Which is good because, you know, I didn't do anything really too bad. You know, I had pretty good friends. You know, there's a very close group of friends, and we just kind of said, we're not going to do drugs. We're not going to get caught up in a lot of the foolishness that was going on around us. And, you know, I had a lot of family there. My mom is from St. Petersburg, where I grew up, pretty close to my dad's family. So there was lots of family around. You know, we would go to these football games for Florida A&M a couple times a year, and that was always a big family gathering. Christmas and Thanksgiving was oftentimes at our house, and everybody just convened up. My house was the house that everybody wanted to go to. You know,
cool. You have brothers and sisters?
I have a half brother who is 12 years older than me. My dad's son, and we didn't grow up together, but so technically I was an only child growing up. So, which was interesting, but
I bet.
Like I said, there's lots of people around. People were always dropping by our house. You know, I remember growing up, if there was a day where no one called or stopped by the house, it felt weird.
Okay.
Because people just showed up at my house all the time. You know. To this day, I mean, if I were to go to St. Petersburg now, I couldn't go to a grocery store or any place without running into somebody that knows my parents.
Okay, that's cool. That's what you call community.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, what kind of music was your dad playing in the house? Being a musician and all.
You know, I remember my dad listening to a lot of different stuff. He was a big fan of Burt Bacharach. He was a big fan of Cannonball Adderley, Quincy Jones, Carpenters. And I think that's where I get my love of songs from, because it was never about chops or solos. It was about composition and songs that told stories and music that made it feel something. So, I remember, you know, some of my earliest memories, now that I think about it, some of my earliest memories as a kid are about music. I remember being small enough that I could crawl under my grandmother's coffee table and listening to Beatles songs. You know,
really,
my mom likes to tell the story of when I went to church one Sunday and the choir was singing, and since I didn't know the words to the song, I just started singing "I Want to Hold Your Hand" by the Beatles, and she's shut up, boy. But you know, I just wanted to participate.
You know, that used to happen to me in church, but you know, and I didn't know what they were saying, so I used to make up words. I used to sing the melody correctly.
This is my version of that.
Yeah. Now, you said your dad was into Burt Bacharach. Was that via Dionne Warwick, or was he just into Burt Bacharach?
Well, the story goes, Burt Bacharach's songwriting partner was a guy named Hal David.
Hal David. Mm-hmm.
And my dad went to school with him.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Wow. High school, like public school or college or what?
I think college. I think they both went to FAMU.
Did David study music too?
I don't know. It's just something that I heard growing up.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that there was that connection, and that's why. At least that's what I was told.
Yeah, I got into Burt Bacharach, but it was via Dionne Warwick and all those great hits she had written by Bacharach and David.
Yeah, he was an amazing songwriter. And the thing is, people don't write songs like that now. I get so frustrated because I hear these songs with 2-note melodies. I'm like, that's not a song. Or a song that has no bridge, no chorus. It's like just 4 chords played over and over.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's no imagination. That doesn't make me feel anything.
Right.
So, like, if music doesn't take you somewhere, it's not doing its job to me. That's my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
I'm old, and I'm sure a lot of young people would disagree with me, but that's my story, and I'm sticking with it.
Boy, you're not old. You're still a young man. Darryl.
Yeah.
Hey, so when you got out of the Air Force, well, not when you got out, but when you left Japan, transferred to Travis, and that's how you got to Sacramento, you said.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So when you got out, you became a resident of Sacramento.
Yes.
Cool.
I moved to Sacramento because I knew people there.
Yeah. And we met soon after you got out.
Yes.
Isn't that correct? Mm-hmm.
Yep. Because what happened, I moved to town. Just like any new person in a new city, I would hang out at the music store and try to meet people and, find out about gigs. And Gary Cooper, who was the guitar repairman at Skip's Music, was just great to me. Like, from the time I moved to town, he was telling everybody about me. And one of the people that he told was Charlie Peacock. And I got a call from Charlie to come and audition for his band. And at that point, I had never heard of Charlie or his music or anything. So I called my friend Barbara Long, and I said, Barbara, I just got a call to audition for this guy, Charlie Peacock. What should I do? And her exact words were, show up and play your ass off. So that's what I tried to do.
Cool. How was that?
It was fun. It was
where was it?
Was a drummer.
Uh-huh.
And it was at Warehouse.
Okay.
I think it was Bruce and Mike Miller and Webbone. And Bruce and I kind of clicked right away. And I think the audition was in August. No.
Mm-hmm.
The audition was in July, and maybe a month or so later, I was on a plane going to England to play Greenbelt.
Cool.
So my very first time going to Europe was with Charlie.
Wow.
For the Greenbelt Festival.
Wow, man, that's great. I didn't know that.
Yeah, we made a couple of records and toured around a little bit. That was really the first professional band situation I was in, because it was my only job was to play bass in that band. And we would rehearse, and rehearse. And when we hit the stage, it was killing. And I miss that.
Musicians these days don't believe in rehearsal.
You are preaching to the choir, my friend.
It's a whole new paradigm. Call me when you got a gig. I don't care if we sound like. Just pay me what you said you're going to pay me.
It's not even just call me when you have a gig. Even if you have a gig, it's like, okay, I can do 1, maybe 2 rehearsals, and how much are you going to pay me?
Yeah.
So, but I have to say, as a general rule, I'm pretty blessed as a band leader. I've got some core people that are really committed and dedicated to this project, and I really am grateful for that. So, just want to put that out there.
Yeah. Well, the Peacock Band, the 77s, man, we practiced every day.
Yeah.
We were right down the hall from each other.
And that's why those bands were killing. It's like when they went on the stage, there was no wondering what was going to happen.
Right. Exactly. Everybody knew.
The funny thing is, when I think back on that time period now, I realize now that I thought I was a lot better than I really was. Like I was young and I was cocky, and I thought, man, I'm just, I'm the Darryl Jones of Christian rock. No, not really. I realized that there was so much I didn't know. But Charlie was patient, and he would say, just learn your instrument. Just, learn the song. He would always kind of make me dig a little deeper. And I appreciate that.
Yeah.
There are things that I'm much better at now. I think I'm a better band leader and a better musician and a better songwriter because of that time period with Chuck. I have, I've told him that, he definitely made me a better musician.
Cool. That's great, man. Well, you never came off as being cocky to me.
Oh, in my head, I was very cocky.
Okay.
And when I think about it now, I'm like, really? What were you thinking? You were lucky to be there.
So how did the Peacock Band come to an end for you?
Chuck moved to Nashville.
Oh, so when he moved to Nashville, was there an announcement like, I'm breaking up the band, thank you guys, and here's a severance of... No. Was there any sort of speech or anything like that?
No. There was, the work had slowed down. I think, we all thought Chuck was working on a new record. He had demos, and, we were talking about recording a new record. I think the record business was going through a shift, and that kind of, the whole Exit Island thing was kind of in flux. I think that kind of took its toll on everybody. And somewhere in there was a break where Chuck didn't have a bunch of gigs, and I took a gig with this band called the Briefcase Blues Band. It was I did that, and
I remember that name.
Yeah, I did that, and I don't know if it was before or after that I started playing with Henry Robinette. I think it must have been after that, because I remember Henry had asked me a couple times, to join the band. And I had, I knew Eric, and I thought Eric was an amazing bass player, and I considered him a friend. So I was like, you need to talk to Eric about this, because I don't want to just come in and replace this dude that's been in the band forever. It's like, we need, that needs to be cool. And I had a conversation with Eric, and I just remember him being so cool about it. Mm-hmm. And I learned so much from years of watching him play. Mm-hmm. I know you know this, but I used to say Eric Levin had what I call the invisible school of bass playing. It didn't stick out, but it supported the music in such a beautiful way that it was easy to overlook the beauty of what he did. But every now and then he would play a note or shift something that just would make you go, wow, that was so simple and so great. And I tried to incorporate what he did to my own bombastic, wannabe Louis Johnson / Jimmy Haslip crap.
Man,
I think he made me at least try to play simpler.
Well,
and again, that's
the Henry Robinette band was in Sacramento. That's the band that Darryl is referring to, and our great friend, Mr. Eric Levin, was playing bass in that band, and you really had to know him to really appreciate that. Me saying about him, he was one of the most special people in the world.
Absolutely,
he was like a gem, and we lost Eric in a fatal car accident some years ago, and man, we had a lot of good times together. And I have a old cymbal here in my drum room that Eric gave me. It's a cymbal he got from Afghanistan when he was in the Air Force or something. Yeah, he was in the Air Force too, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We used to talk about that. There's so many great Eric Levin stories. My favorite one was I was a big fan of Willie Weeks. And he was telling me about the Donny Hathaway live record. And I guess I didn't know about it. And he goes, oh, you got to check this record out. So he let me borrow his record. And if you know anything about Eric, he's very particular about his records.
Yeah.
So he let me borrow this record. I had it for a few weeks. And I eventually found another copy of it. And I think maybe the copy that he had was like a master recording or so, like an audiophile disc of it. It was a really pristine copy of the record. And I was kind of freaking about records too. I always had like the non-magnetic sleeves and all that stuff. So I was getting ready to return the album to Eric. Took it off the turntable, putting it in the sleeve, and it slipped out of my hand and broke. And I thought, oh my God, what am I going to do? Oh my God. And I searched high and low trying to find another copy of that record of the same quality. And eventually I had to call him and tell him what happened. And he's like, hey, stuff happens. But I to this day, I feel terrible about that because I'm like, but again, just a really beautiful person and a gentleman in every single way. Yeah,
in every single way. Yeah, man. So, you got in the Henry Robinette band, and I think I was there for some of that. I was there in town for some of that, but there was a lot of it I wasn't there for. So I don't know how you finally got to where you are now down in the Bay Area, and your job with what's the company's name that you're employed by?
Dunlop, Jim Dunlop.
Yeah. Dunlop.
Yeah.
How you got into all that and all that. So I'm going to ask you to stand on the springboard of the Henry Robinette group and jump into the future.
Okay. So the Henry Robinette group was fun. At some point, I met this guy, Ron Randall, who was in the MI business doing what I do now. And he just knew manufacturers from every bass company. And he just knew all these people. And I just thought it was such a cool thing. And I went to New York to visit him. And he's like, I told him, I said, I'd love to do this. And he said, well, I work for this amp company and we're going to need a rep in California. So, but you would have to be in the Bay Area because there's not enough. Sacramento's not centrally located enough. So I convinced my wife to move to Oakland, and I worked for Eden Bass Amps for a little while. And that started that whole trajectory. Being back in the Bay Area just created an enormous amount of musical opportunities, playing with, another level of musicians, and really having to work to step up my game because, in Sacramento, there's only so many musicians. And,
right.
I felt like I had done some of the best gigs there were to do there. But coming to the Bay Area, you got to wait your turn and prove yourself. Yeah. Yeah. So I did that. I worked for Eden for a while, and I worked for Lakeland. And at some point, I'm trying to remember the order of things. I got asked by a friend of mine, Will Littlejohn, also from Sacramento. He was working for a studio called Wave Group, and they were starting to do music for video games. And he asked me to help him put together musicians and to play on stuff. And that turned into 5 years of doing Karaoke Revolution, Guitar Hero, Rock Band, a bunch of different music video games as a bass player and producer. And that was a great experience. And based on that, I kind of got the bug to do my own record. And when I was in the Henry Robinette group, Joe Gilman and I wrote a bunch of songs. We wrote a bunch of songs for his record, and we would just get together once a week on Monday or Wednesday, go to Jim Boy's for lunch, and then go to his house and write songs.
Ooh, Jim Boy's tacos, baby.
You know it.
That'll cause a lot of creation within the.
It did indeed.
Oh, man. So Joe Gilman is the pianist in the Henry Robinette group, professor over at, is he still at American River College?
He's there, and he's also at the Brubeck Institute in Stockton, I think it is.
Right. At Stanford University?
Yeah, he's all over the place. He's a super talented guy.
And another great spirit.
Yeah, and also really funny. People don't realize how funny Joe Gilman is.
Oh, yeah.
But that dude used to have me in stitches all the time. So it was great to write with him because he always had a sense of humor in his songwriting.
Yeah, I went over to Joe's house a couple of times to write some songs.
He's something else.
Have him play my ideas, my thoughts, and my humming.
And he's really good at that.
Yeah, he is.
I remember sometimes we'd be writing, and I'd say, okay, the chord right here, it needs to feel like whatever, and he would just play it.
Yeah.
Or give me 3 different options of that same feeling.
Yeah, and and he can sense where you're going as far in your listen to your melody and kind of give you the voicings that really make a great progression. You know, he's so darn good, man. Dang.
And it's funny because we used to write so many different ways. Sometimes he would come up with tracks with just changes in a groove with no melody. So it left me the total freedom to come up with a melody and lyrics. And other times I would have just words. I remember, do you know, what is her name? Renee Garcia?
Oh, yeah.
So Renee Garcia was the background singer on the Michael W. Smith tour when I opened for them with Margaret Becker. Yeah. And we got to be really good friends. And I played her some of the demo stuff that Joe and I had written. And she said, you should write something for me. So I wrote this song called Heaven Can Hear Us. And it took me like 2 years to get the lyrics together because I had all these ideas in my hand. And I called Joe and I said, hey, Joe, I just finished this song. And I read him the lyrics over the phone. And he said, okay, come on over. And I went to his house and he played me pretty much exactly what ended up on the record. He just heard those words and wrote an entire song. I'm like, really? It took me 2 years and it took you like 15 seconds? But that's Joe Gilman.
It took him 2 years to do something else. Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me, you got a new band. It's called AgapéSoul. And man, that opening track we just played was like killer. So I imagine the rest of the record has got to be like that. And you guys are doing, huh?
I'm pretty proud of it.
Yeah. You guys are doing pretty well in England. You just had a good placement on charts over there, right?
It's number one on the UK Soul chart, and it's still doing well.
Is that the whole album or a single?
That was the whole album.
And what's the title?
The title is Conversations.
Cool. By AgapéSoul. Now,
and I got to have some of my favorite people on this record. You know, the uber talented Mr. Tommy Sims, Eric Gales on guitar, a couple of guys from Snarky Puppy on horns and percussion, Paul Jackson Jr., just a lot of amazing, talented people that kind of poured into this project and made it a lot of fun.
How long you been doing it?
The band's been together for...
No, this particular project.
Oh, it took 3 years to finish a record.
Wow.
And my wife would always go, aren't you done with this record yet? I'm like, do you want a quick record or do you want a good record? And, you know, it just kind of worked out that way. You know, kind of being a grown-up, you have other things in life that you have to deal with, and you just have to get to it when you can get to it. And really, God opened some doors and he closed some doors that if he hadn't done either thing, it would have been a very different record.
Yeah. But well, he had to make the record that he wanted.
Yeah. And I'm good with that. Definitely good with that. So tell me, did you grow up in the church, or were you always a Christian, or was there a certain point in your life where you like, this lack of terminology, became a Christian? I grew up in the church. You know, my dad was the minister of music in my church. My grandfather was a deacon. My grandmother, you know, was heavily, my whole family was involved in the church. As a kid, it was more something I had to do or was expected to do. And and I don't know that I fully understood everything. I would say, as an adult, you know, I made the decision to become a Christian, and some things have pulled me away from the church at times. You know, just being confused by what man does versus what God says. And, you know, people who are representatives of the church who don't really live what they preach, that, you know, I let that get in my head from time to time. But
you must be in that flux right now.
Actually, I'm not. And that's what I was getting. For the last 2 years, well, since I have been married to my wife, we have definitely grown closer to God and had a relationship to God in our lives pretty much the whole time we've been together, like 15 years. And in this last 2 years, we found a new church. We moved, and we found a new church here in the area where we live that is just the most amazing church and the most amazing group of people I've ever met. The pastors are great teachers. They live what they preach. The church is just a phenomenal church. The way that they are involved in the community, and I can't even say enough good things about them. For the first time in my life, I can't wait to get to church on Sunday. Whereas it used to be, I got to go to church on Sunday. Can I just sleep in? Now, Sunday and going to church and being involved with the people in the church is the best part of my day. You know, I have, you know, at various times I've played in church, and it was like a gig. It's like, okay, I'm going to go to church. I'm going to play. Now I play in church and I don't get paid, and I'm much happier doing it because my motivation for doing it is that I'm serving God and I am contributing to his house. And that's way more important to me than making some money. And my whole family sees the blessing of being involved in this church and just changing our lives.
That's cool. Is your church multiracial?
Yes, it is. It is very mixed. It's just, and you feel welcome and included the minute you walk in the door. You know, there is no feeling of judgment like, well, you know, you're not wearing the right clothes, or you don't hang out with the right people. You know, you might see people that look like gang members or people that look like socialites, but they are all there serving God and in a way that you just know is real. You know, people are unafraid to be their authentic self in that church, which I think makes a huge difference. Because, you know, sometimes churches try to pretend to be better than. And, you know, as many times as I've read the Bible, you know, there are some basic principles that I never got before. One of which, God can't use perfect people. So if you're waiting around to get your life together before you come to God, you're missing the point. The most powerful people in the Bible were broken people, and God used their brokenness.
He can use them. He can use imperfect people, but and he always does.
And thank God for that, because I'm pretty imperfect.
Yeah, man, I'm telling you. I mean, for you to say, For you, a brother, to say you walked into a church and you immediately felt welcome, that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't know if white people feel that. You know, if they walk into a mostly white church, which they probably would, I think they would automatically just feel welcome.
Right.
But for a brother to walk into a church and go, "Oh, I feel welcome," then I know you're saying it's a multiracial, multicultural environment, and you can feel that sense of the red carpet rolling out.
I mean, the pastor is white and Norwegian. Sean Nepsat. His wife is Nicaraguan. They have 4 incredible daughters, and the church, the leadership team is like the United Colors of Benetton, you know, and
yeah,
you know, and the other thing is you can talk to them like regular people. You know, a lot of times they'll come out after the service and just, you know, stand out in the hallway and greet people and talk. You know, we had a 20-minute conversation with Pastor Diana on Sunday, and it was just like talking to a friend. You know, we had a situation maybe a year ago where my stepson had a medical emergency and we had to fly to Canada. And I posted on Instagram to Pastor Diana and said, "Please pray for my family." She responded to me immediately and followed up. And when we got back, she was like, "So how's your son? What's going on?" I said, "There's 5,000 people that go to this church." But she took the time to respond and to care and to be just a real person. And you and I both know, I've been to much smaller churches where they don't know your name, no matter how long you've been going there.
Right. Man.
You know, I don't mean to diss anybody, but I have been in a lot of churches where I felt invisible, no matter how involved I was in the process.
Right. I can relate.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I'm glad you're going to church. I'm glad you found a great church home. That's that warms my heart.
When you come to visit, we'll have to go.
We'll have to go for sure.
Yes, sir.
But I want you. We're kind of getting to the end of the program here, and I want you to tell everybody about how to get in contact with AgapéSoul, where you're playing, how to get your music, and all that stuff.
It's really easy. AgapéSoul.com. AgapéSoul. It's one word. You can get our music there. You can see where we're playing. You can listen to the songs, learn a little bit about the band, who we are. And really our music is just about trying to create something positive in a world that's not always so.
So where do you guys play?
We're playing kind of all over Northern California. We have a big CD release coming up on November 1st at a new club in Berkeley called the Cornerstone. We play in Napa at a place called Silos sometimes. Just kind of all over. I try not to play too often, but we are hoping to go over to Europe. Because it's not a club band per se. You know, we don't do covers. You know, we might do a couple covers, but they're covers that fit what we do. It's kind of an experience. You know, we want people to feel like they're in our living room and being part of the conversation. That's you know, where the title comes from. There's a conversation that we have as musicians with each other on the stage, the conversations that we have with the listener and the audience, and also just the conversations that we have as humans throughout our lives. And we hope to influence those conversations in a positive way, because really on any given day, any conversation can change somebody's world.
Right.
So
Agreed.
the title of the song says you can change the world with a conversation.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a booking agent?
I do not, and I am accepting applications at any time.
And they get in contact with you? How?
Info at AgapéSoul.com.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the website is the catch-all for everything. If you can remember AgapéSoul.com, you can find us.
And people can call you and book you without going through an agent or something. They can just get in contact with you directly.
Yes.
Okay. You guys do house shows up in Northern California?
No, we talked about it at some point, but no.
Well, I think you should. And with that, man, I'm going to thank you for being on the show today. Everybody go out and get Conversations by AgapéSoul. Thank you, my brother, for being on the show. I love you. Look forward to seeing you.
You too, man.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Man. All right.
This is Jackie Bertoni from Jackie's Groove. Come join me weekly on my journey through the music business as I take you behind the velvet rope, interviewing industry notables such as Al Di Meola, Michael McDonald, and Al Jarreau, to name but a few. Listen to their stories on being in the studios recording #1 hits and onto the stages throughout the globe. Allow me to be your music historian. You can hear me live every Monday at 2 p.m. and every Wednesday at 12 noon Pacific Standard Time or 24/7 on jackiesgroove.com. Ready to get your groove on?
Hi, this is Tim Dolbear from Eclectica Studios. I'm a full-time mixing and recording engineer. I work with Grammy winners, labels, and indie artists, using state-of-the-art digital mixing and restoration tools and the very best in analog gear. Really, though, it's my ability to bring tracks to life and fulfill your vision for your music. This has made me sought after by producers and artists worldwide. So spend your time working on music and not chasing a mix down a rabbit hole. Go to timdolbear.com and check out our free one-song mix offer.
You know what's all around you every waking moment of your life? Marketing. You're choking on it. I'm Scott Robertson, and when it comes to strategic PR, branding, and marketing, I've seen it all. And actually, I'm still seeing it because bad marketing never sleeps. Join me each week on May the Best Brand Win, right here on Intertalk Radio, and learn how to make the marketing for your brand unforgettable.
Are you serious about your music? Are you ready to run with the big dogs? The experts at Pitbull Audio have the gear to get you into the game. From leading manufacturers like Mesa Boogie, Fender, Pioneer, and American Audio. To sound your best, you need the best. Pitbull Audio can deliver in rehearsal, on stage, and into the big time. Dropping beats, shredding guitar, or making the crowd roar. Whatever you dream, Pitbull Audio can help make it happen. We are Pitbull Audio. We want you to play it loud. PitbullAudio.com.